You're listening to Childcare Sights and Sounds, presented by Dani Christine Inc., a podcast made for childcare providers by childcare providers. Welcome back, everyone, to Childcare Sights and Sounds, Season 2, Episode 4, I think we're in. Today, we have our very first guest for Season 2, Tiffany Diaz, who is the CEO and founder of My First Steps Enrichment Programs 2 Incorporated. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today and making time out of your busy schedule to join us for this podcast episode.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
I really appreciate it. For everybody that's listening, Tiffany was actually a client of mine. She did a consultation with me a few weeks ago, and listening to her talk about her situation and the advice that she needed for all the different projects and stuff that she had going on, I insisted that she come on the podcast because she was doing such great things and had so much that I think that my listeners and viewers of this podcast would be able to benefit from. So whatever you're willing to share, I know that everyone will be willing to listen. I think that you have great things going on and such a bigger, better, brighter future ahead with your childcare program. So thank you again for being here.
No. Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I just hope that I can, whatever information I can give, that it brings a value to anyone else that's listening. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. So can you tell us a little about yourself and your programs and how you kind of got started?
Yes. Well, I actually got started years ago, and I never thought I would actually be in this field. I actually started off working as an assistant bookkeeper on Park Avenue and going to school for business administration. And I noticed one day, literally on the train, like an epiphany hit me. And I said, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. It feels like a routine. All I see is papers and numbers and papers and numbers, and it's not fulfilling. It's not quite showing me what my purpose is in in my existence in my world. And I just so happened to see one of those posters in the train station that said, "Are you ready to make a difference in a child's life? To come in and go to work for go to school for social work." And I said, "Hmm, I don't think I want to be a social worker. Hats off to them. But I know I definitely want to make a difference. I want to leave my mark in this world, in this earth." And long story short, I got into working inside the Board of Education as a crisis paraprofessional, which means I was a one to one with different students of different special needs, maybe emotional or
Oh,
physical.
got it. Okay.
And from there, I started off with junior high schoolers, which
Mhm.
I was 19 years old working with junior
Oh
high
my
schoolers.
goodness.
Like, how are they supposed to like see me as this adult when I'm just 19?
Yeah.
But I learned. It definitely was an eye opener.
Mm-hmm.
It made me realize that I'm trying to get them too late. I figured I want to go to school for something in teaching, something along those lines. But I noticed by the time they hit, school age, elementary school, it's too late.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to get to them beforehand. And from there, the idea actually came from my mom of opening up a daycare. And at first I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't even have kids. Like, who's gonna have me take care of their kids?
Yeah.
And no, Lord and behold, and it's been about 10 years. In April, it's gonna be 10 years now in the field.
Wow. So are you in business with your mom?
No, she just put the idea out there. She
Okay.
said, we have a home, that she
Mhm.
purchased. If you're willing to do it, why not? This way, it helps out with the mortgage. And let's see, give it a try. Let's see if you're good at it. I said,
Right.
let's see. I went
So,
ahead, I researched, I took
yeah.
classes.
Uh-huh.
And back then, I was actually working as a crisis paraprofessional, as I mentioned to you, as a teacher's assistant. And I would also do tutoring. And then I would also work on the weekends. But,
Mm,
you know, when you're in your 19, 20,
yeah,
21, you don't have
all
any.
different hustles.
Yeah, exactly. 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 So you have time and energy for everything. And throughout that time was then I started taking my classes. I was also going to school full time. And
Mhm.
that's when I decided, okay, I want to pursue my bachelor's in behavioral science. So once I went ahead and did that, I realized, okay, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is definitely where I feel like I can make a difference.
Nice. So when you first started off 10 years ago in the house that your mom had purchased, so it was a home daycare, a group family daycare in that home?
Yes, actually, it was. I first started as a family childcare
Okay.
program. I first, wanted to take it step by step. And as most people may know, the difference between group and family is that with family, it's a ratio a lot smaller,
Hmm.
6 to 8 children, and you don't need an assistant when it's family. So I started as family, and then when I realized there was a much bigger need for it, and this is actually that I want to something that I want to pursue, I went ahead and I upgraded the license or changed it to group.
Right. And I guess we should clarify, I forgot to mention that your programs are located in Bronx, New
Yeah.
York. Is that right? Yeah. Because every state and even sometimes regions within the same state have different capacities and regulations and differences there. So in your area, in the Bronx, in New York City, the capacity for home daycares for family versus group is as you stated. And many different, just for anybody that's wondering, many different states have kind of the same thing where it's usually two different types of home daycare programs that you can have, one smaller and one larger with an assistant. So you can look into your local child care licensing regulations and laws for more information about that. Um, but sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to clarify. So yeah, you started with a home daycare. And when did you said that you went on for your bachelor's in what again?
In behavioral science.
Did you do that while you were also running the home daycare?
Yes, I did. And wow, it was quite the challenge, let's just say.
Mhm.
But I knew that well, at least for me, I
Mhm.
knew that it was something that I wanted to achieve because since I didn't have that experience as an actual parent, because I don't have children, and at that point, I didn't have children of my own either. I knew I needed to learn more. I knew I needed to know more so that I can give the children that walk in through the doors the best possible care.
Mhm.
And obviously, everything is not books. Hands on, to me, it's 75 to 80%.
Yeah.
But there's something about you being able to have that knowledge to understand the behaviors of the children, of the parents, of the families that you're going to be dealing with, to understand that there's more to a family than what meets the eye. I think it really set my program apart from maybe other programs.
Yes, I love that. That you leaned into what makes your program unique and standing out than the rest of. There's so much competition, especially in New York City, with different home daycare programs. So often, when clients book me for consultations, that's one of the first questions I ask them. Like, how is your program going to be different than the one down the street? So it's great that you recognize that. And I know that struggle all too well of like going to school while running a home daycare because I did the same thing. I started off in a home daycare setting as well, and I had right before I was in going into my senior year of my bachelor's program. And I
Mm.
also did my master's while operating my home daycare the same year that I started my center. So it was a lot.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. So tell us a little more about because what intrigued me the most about your business the way that you've grown and kind of expanded it, what was the next step after you opened the home daycare, the first home daycare location, and finished your bachelor's program?
Well, after the first one, I actually had a friend and colleague of mine that literally told me, listen, you have this wait list. You have such a great program. Why don't you just open another one? And I
Hmm.
said, I don't know, the money, the this, responsibility. She goes, there's always going to be something.
Hmm.
So why not just take the leap and give it a try? I went ahead. I started the process. I found an apartment not too far from where my current program, was at the time, literally maybe 3 blocks. Because I've always known I've wanted continuity of care, always, always.
Hmm.
So I figured, okay, it's not too far. It's not too much of an inconvenience to my market, my target market that's in my area and to my families. Let's give it a try. I went ahead. I got the space. It was in an apartment building.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that was the first try. So I was in an apartment building,
Was it,
and
so you were getting in a like a commercial space under the apartment buildings or in the unit?
no, in the unit. So I
Okay.
was getting an apartment to rent to open up my next location.
Okay, got
Found it. I had it for about a year, and it was right before the laws changed. Right before, literally cut it right there.
it.
Where now there was this change. This was like in 2014,
14?
2015. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Where I said, oh, I have to hurry up and do this now. It's either now or never.
Wait, so what was the law that was gonna affect, was it that you can't do daycares in
Yes.
apartments anymore?
No, the law was that one on-site provider cannot have multiple locations.
Oh, yes, that
That
one.
one, that one. But if you get it right before, you get
Yeah,
grandfathered in.
yeah.
Let's just say licensing came, they approved it. I was literally got the call in the morning to say you should be good to go come get your license in the afternoon. I said, oh my God, yes, after a year paying rent of an empty space, because the process does take a while.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes. It was so backed up because so many different providers were trying to get in before they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say God had other plans.
Oh.
Because there was a huge change last minute. Someone in my application pulled their name out because they no longer, wanted to have their name as a substitute on there due to another job opportunity they had.
Okay.
And the license then got pulled as well.
Oh my god.
And I was literally got the call in the evening, said, what happened? Now we can't process your application. I said, wait, what? Why not? It's just a change. This person is going to be working elsewhere. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
No. So at that point in time, I was absolutely devastated, devastated.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Of course, I did look into other centers, just because I was growing so fast. And I noticed there was a need for school age children. And
Hmm.
no, we cannot have more than a certain amount of children under, in our care. It may be the apartment or a center or so on and so forth during for a specific time because that's just what our ratio is.
Right.
And it was getting to the point where, okay, I can't just keep on holding on to the wait list. These kids don't want to go, these families don't want to go to any of the programs that I advise them to or refer them to. So I
Mhm.
was, looking into centers, but I never thought it was something that I could afford back then. I
I,
thought it was a dream that was too far for me to achieve,
mhm.
especially after that financial blow of having that apartment for a full year empty and then thinking that you're gonna finally get it, get your get things
Yeah.
rolling, and have it furnished and everything, to just find out that it's not possible anymore.
So did you have to let that space go? Like you just let the lease expire?
Exactly. I let the lease expire. Obviously, I had to continue paying the rent. I
Hmm.
let the lease expire, and then that was around September, October that the
Hmm.
lease had expired. And I got a call from I call him my angel, to be honest. And he was actually a landlord of a center a block away from that same program, from that same building that I had reached out to. But back when I reached out to them, they already had someone that they were working with that was interested in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so they told me, we have someone that we're working with already, but if anything, we'll give you a call. A couple months later, they gave me a call. And to be honest, before even answering him, I just said, I can't afford this. I
Mm-hmm.
can't afford this. Like it's impossible. And the person that referred me to them said, negotiate. And that's something that I think we forget that we
Yeah.
can do. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's a culture thing. I'm not sure if it's, maybe just we just don't know that we're able to.
Yeah.
But when they said, what's the most that they can say? No. That's
Right.
it. That's literally the most I said, well, what if I just want to try it out month to month? Because what if I can't succeed? What if I can't bring in the children that I'm expecting to? She goes, so then just ask. So I did. Instead of doing month to month, I did 6 months because I already knew I had the clientele
Right.
secure. But now I needed to make sure I had more than what I needed to break even. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when you always have to start, budgeting and doing your numbers.
Right.
But now when it's a center, it's scarier. It's a commercial space. Like
Of course. And how big was that property? Do you,
not very big, not very big at all. Only 900 square feet.
so
It
how
was,
many
yeah.
kids could you fit in there?
Well, here's the beauty of it. There's always where there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to the buildings department, because the space is a single service space, which means it's not regulated by the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, because all we provide there is homework assistance and tutoring. That's it.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. So you
Yeah.
didn't have to go through the whole licensing process.
Exactly, exactly. For that location, we did not have to go through that. Do on solely for that purpose. Let me just clarify. I don't want anyone thinking,
No,
listening to
of
this
course,
and
yeah.
saying,
And the disclaimer, check your own licensing
yes,
regulations and laws. Check with the people. Book a consultation if you need help figuring
there
it
you go, book a consultation right with Dani. Because I don't want you guys getting confused. Okay, this is a single service program,
out.
very
Uh-huh.
similar to, like, let's say your karate schools, to your dance
Right,
classes.
right.
Very similar to that, except that we focus on homework help and tutoring because that's what the need was in my community.
Mm.
So finally, the landlord agreed to the terms that we negotiated. I said, he said yes. And they said, yeah. He said, yes, it's yours. You can come pick up your keys November 15th, to be exact. I went ahead and I picked up my keys, and the space was needed work. It definitely did. But to me, it was beautiful. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it was beautiful because I could just see the potential in it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I would walk past it with the kids when we would when we would do pickup from the after school. So it's almost like they went through the whole growth with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very, very, very satisfying.
That's
And
special to
it
know that
is.
they saw the growth as you were expanding.
It is. It really, really, really is. Because it's something where we don't notice it when we have our residential setting programs, our family and group family daycare. But oh, things flow so much more lovely when kids are separated by age.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Don't get me wrong. I love my group family daycare. I love it. I love it. I love it. But when you have the opportunity to give the infants and toddlers their space, your preschoolers their space, your after schoolers their space, not only does everything just flow also differently, but you're allowed to also maximize and see what areas you can improve in what age group, which ones maybe need a little bit more catering to in this, which one can maybe need a little bit more help in this. Granted, it wasn't easy because, as you know, we need to make sure staffing is on point.
Right.
It's just easier said than done, but it's not impossible. And I feel like so many of us think that it's a star that's so far away and
Mhm.
so unattainable that we
Right.
kind of give up on that dream,
Yeah.
until maybe we get like that little push. So
Yeah, it's easy to forget that well, it's not even forget, but many of us don't know being in the childcare business, many of us don't know how to negotiate or what what exactly can be negotiated. And really, the answer is everything. Everything can be up for negotiation. You can get creative, like in the way that you did about asking if you could have a lesser lease term instead of it being a year, 5 years, 10 years. You did the first 6 months. Or you can, sometimes I encourage people to try to ask for a concession, meaning that you don't pay rent for the first couple of months, or it's probably discounted so that you can use money for renovations and stuff. Um, there's so many different things that can be negotiated. So it's great that you're able to work that out. Did you have to try to apply for loans or any grants or anything? Did you get financing from anywhere else, or is just money that you saved?
No, we got financing from nowhere, grants from nowhere. It was literally a family affair. We all rolled up our sleeves. Thankfully, my dad, for many years, he was a super in buildings. So he had a lot of knowledge in regards to floors, repairs, and things along those lines. And I was right there painting walls, fixing ceilings, my mom getting, flooring from Home Depot. I can't even tell you how many trips to Home Depot we took. But that became my new best friend.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And, we called upon friends because that's where I was at that moment. At
Mhm,
that moment in time, I rolled up the troops, those that were able to help in one way, those that were able to help in another way.
mhm.
And we were able to open in 2 weeks by December 1st. Oh, yes, we worked nonstop. The landlord was like, "It's Sunday. It's holy day. Go rest." I go, "God is with me. He sees what I'm trying to do. He sees, he's the one giving me the strength to be up here
Right.
early, even on a Sunday, knowing that Monday I have to wake up early to go take the kids to school and stay at the other program. But when you want it, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
There's never time. You make time.
Right. Absolutely. You make the time for things that are important to you always. That's so funny that you say you lived at Home Depot or that was your best friend. Even till this day, my business is also a family business. I own it with my dad, my daycare centers. And same thing. My family was my support system in the beginning.
I
And even to this day, my dad is consistently at Home Depot often 4 years later after opening. So I know that all too well as well. But can you get into telling us about? I remember you saying that you kind of created this home daycare franchise system. Can you tell us a little about how that idea came about and what it means for you and your business?
Yes. Well, it actually came about many years ago when I actually had to join a network due to, that whole early childhood, I mean, early learn
Yes.
time. You remember that
Hmm.
swipe of early learn that came on to all New York City providers
Yeah.
in the care world? Well, I ended up having to join a network because I felt that, okay, this is what I need to do now in order to, maintain the students that I have because these families can't afford, to pay out of pocket. And these HRA and ACS and ACD vouchers are now being limited to these families. So I
Hmm.
went ahead and I joined the network. And although I never had any issues with the network, because since my mentality and my way of running my program was always very structured and around and very similar to a Head Start program,
Hmm.
I didn't have any issues with all the things that they were asking for. But where I did realize that there was a huge disconnect was that I felt that it isn't fair for us childcare providers to be part of a network and have to pay a network a fee. And then, not to mention, we're not even getting what our rates are, just by the market value in itself. Obviously, every city, or I'm sorry, every state, the value changes of the market rate. But for us, at least, it's low to begin with. It's
Right.
low to begin with. And then for these networks to then go ahead and subtract even more from what we're getting paid.
Do you
And
know
then
what the percentage was that the network takes?
They weren't
approximately?
even doing it by percentage at that time, and this was years ago when I had to
Yeah, I
join.
never participated in it, so I do know that they do take a fee for every child that is enrolled through the network. I just don't know what it is because I never did it.
Yes, and not only that, but then I wasn't getting children from them, from the networks. I was sending my families there so that this way my families would qualify for these programs where they didn't have to pay out of pocket. They were so demanding. They were more demanding than the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Just to give you
Really?
an idea.
So they would come for inspections
Oh,
too?
constantly. Oh goodness, constantly, constantly. Oh my goodness, it was constant. Where I'm like, oh, you're here again. Okay. And I said, you know what? How wrong is it? You guys aren't really teaching us anything than the bare minimum. You're not teaching me for business in regards to business. You're not teaching me how to protect myself. And I've been through a lot in my business. I don't know if it's because, I started so young and, maybe I was not maybe, I was definitely very naive
Mhm.
in regards to how cold it can be when you're your own boss and when you're an entrepreneur and you're young and you're a minority and starting your own business when you don't know the laws behind a lot of things.
Mhm.
They just teach us the bare minimum. That's all
Right.
we get. These networks do not give us anything else. I mean, I can go for a rant. Like, I'm a union rep, for goodness sakes, for providers, so I can really take it there. But but that's when I realized it's not right. It's not fair. So I said, what if I were to start a network? And I'm like, girl, you ain't got that kind of money. You can't start no damn network. But then I said, okay, I can't afford to start a network. I don't have that kind of money and I don't have that kind of freedom of time because it does take work. You need to learn how to write grants, proposals, so on and so forth. It's not impossible. I tell everyone, it's not impossible. You just need to make sure if that's where you're at, in your life to go through that journey. That's not where I was at. But I did know I wanted to do something different. So then I said, well, I keep referring my families when I'm full to all these other daycare programs. I don't just keep a huge waiting list and just keep it all for myself. No, I feel like we can all grow up, we can all succeed if
Right.
you're doing the right thing, if you're giving high quality care. And the parents would just tell me no, they'd rather just wait. They'd rather just wait until I have a spot. And I'm like, well, I mean, ain't no spots happening anytime soon.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. And then I would see these providers that just didn't know any better. One
Mhm.
thing is if you know and you just don't want to do it. Another thing is if you really don't know, or you really don't have that marketing strategy, or you really don't realize, listen, if you just tweaked this, it can make a world of a difference. Or maybe what you need is your handheld for a little bit. And then that's where I decided, and I said I would give it a try to go out and start doing a franchise of my first steps.
Mhm.
And I did the first attempt last year with a provider because last year I got my contract for my 3K for all program with the city, which is a direct contract with the city.
Mhm.
And what happens with that is that all the children in my program from 8 to 220 are only 3-year-olds that are contracted, just like regular pre-K and just like regular UPK pre-K and 3K, as you see in the schools for Department of Education.
Mhm.
My space in my home-based program, my residential setting program, was a 3K for all site.
Right.
So that means all my mixed ages, I had to basically cut ties with. And that broke my heart. That, oh my goodness. Oh, because these were
Not to
families that
get too far off track, but is there a reason that you chose to do 3K for all in your home daycare instead of just keeping it regular childcare for mixed ages?
to survive.
The money was better than private. Yeah,
Everything was better because 3K was coming in full force. Full
that's
force.
true. I remember going
Coming.
to those informational because I was thinking about opening a center in Queens at one point a few years ago. And I knew that in order to do that, I would need to get to get a contract with the DOE. So I was going to those informational sessions and people were mad. like the private daycare owners that were still had programs in Queens in that area that were there were asking a whole lot of questions. They were upset about how it was rolling out and worried for the success of their if they chose not to do this their own private programs.
Let
So
me tell you, that's a whole nother podcast episode that we have,
it
because we can really go in depth with that. I'm part of a committee of a group of providers that works from the politics sides of things. And
Mhm.
let's just say that's a huge monster,
Yeah,
huge monster. You know, you're talking about the big boys, the Department of Education.
right.
And I knew my program, my residential setting program, would always have at least three people there. One person cooking and cleaning,
Mhm.
one person with my infant and toddlers, and another person with my preschoolers. And then also, obviously, to do the pickup for the after school, which is what I would usually do, and then bring them back and then homework out. This was way before me having my single service center location. And it takes a lot of money. Minimum wage was also going up to 15 an hour. And
Yeah.
I knew in order to continue giving high quality care, I would not be able to realistically afford to have the staff that I have, the children that I have, at a decent rate to my parents and to also the operational side of the business, and be successful and abide by all the laws. Like, it is a challenge.
Mhm.
Centers get a higher rate, but centers also have a lot of payroll fees, rent
Yeah.
fees, and everything else, that they have to accommodate as well. And that's something that doesn't really get spoken about,
Mhm.
or at least doesn't happen often enough. So that's when I realized I'm gonna have to jump on this bandwagon. I'm going to have to figure it out and tough it out. And it was hard. It was no joke.
Mhm.
That direct contract, because I have a direct contract with the city. So we even had to go ahead and negotiate with DOE and everything. It is no joke.
Right.
Let's
You have to do your own budget and everything, right?
everything,
Mhm.
everything, 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 everything. So it was definitely a challenge. It was definitely many times where I said, you know what, I don't need this nonsense. This is my business. Like, I should be able to do things the way I want. And
Yeah.
then I would sit back and say, you know what, Tiffany, they're gonna pay for 75% of your rent. They're going to make sure your teacher's payroll is covered, your teacher's assistant's payroll is covered, all your business expenses that go along with 3K for all, they're covered. And thanks to that contract, we were able to, survive through all of this, COVID and everything, you know.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
hmm
So home daycares didn't have to close for in New York City, right? But did you have to because you're contracted with DOE?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. But thankfully, due to, once again, we're contracted. So all this is already pre-budgeted for. Everyone was still getting paid.
Nice.
Yes,
Did
very
you have to offer like virtual learning experiences or
Oh yes, 100%. I mean, the
okay.
teacher's getting paid. So yes, there definitely was some virtual learning going on. Um, we definitely did a lot of, because I'm huge, huge, huge on family engagement. I
Mhm.
think it's the driving force behind my first steps, and it has a lot to do with my childhood and knowing, things that parents aren't aware of how important it is, for them
Right.
to be involved. So we were able to continue that through the remote learning. We found ways. We found ways. I
We
ordered.
always do as
I
childcare pro
know. We
whatever
always.
it is, we'll find a way. What we have to do.
Yes, but to revert back to the franchise. So that year, last year, I said, you know what? Let me partner up. Let me find out what's going on with this provider that I realized that she just opened up, but I don't see any kids there. Literally two houses down. Not
Mhm.
to mention, I have a daycare right next to me. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm 1320. I'm here. We have a daycare here, and then one, two houses down, another daycare had just opened up. So
Mm,
I said, listen, as long as you have a high quality program, there's more than enough children to go around. But I noticed that she didn't have too much. I didn't see any traffic of children. So
mhm.
I went ahead. I introduced myself. My mom actually knew her because she's lived there for a long time.
Mhm.
And we went ahead and, tried it out, start the process. And once again, it did not work out. It did not
Really?
work out, yes. Because in the process of me wanting to do it as my franchise, we were not on the same page in regards to how things would had to run with every detail.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, although I sent her all the children, she had a full house. Within 2 weeks, all my parents left her.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So it was that they were not happy with her quality of
They,
care.
they were not. They were not. So I
Okay.
said, you know what? Okay, let me give you a list. Okay, these are not partnered programs. Let me give you a list and you go ahead and then you pick, and keep me in the loop. I don't want you guys to just be left high and dry.
A list of what?
A
Oh,
list of different
for the
child,
parents.
yes,
Okay,
of
okay.
different programs that they can visit in the area that wouldn't be of an inconvenience. So I
Yeah,
basically did the research for them.
got it.
We
Okay.
had, at least three different programs in the area that had space that were decent, and I would look them up, see if they have any violations and everything.
Mhm.
So it didn't work out. It's just that simple. So no hard feelings. It didn't work out. To each their own. And this year, I actually had someone that I did a space consultation for, because I would go into spaces and reorganize their space just to make the flow a lot easier for them, a lot better for them, and to just give it a facelift.
Mhm.
So one of those clients that I had referred someone to me in January of this year of 2020. And long story short, with this person, we were able to do the franchise. She actually told me she wanted that. She wanted someone to come in and tell her how to do it successfully, how to do it appropriately. That she had her program years ago, but unfortunately, due to poor management on the business side of things, and walking that fine line with parents between being the provider but yet trying to be a friend and so on and so forth, things didn't work out. So she closed her space for many years, and this was also in a home. So we went ahead, filled each other out. I got to know the person, so I definitely learned from my mistakes from the first time. That seems to happen to me a lot. I need to do one round first
That's
and then the
business,
second round.
right? Especially if we didn't go to school for it, if we didn't grow up with parents that were business owners, if we didn't have mentors and stuff, we're figuring it out as we go along. That's how we learn.
Oh, ain't that the truth? And this lady was just so receptive to everything I was saying. She was like, "Okay, okay." I said, "What do you mean? You don't have any, like,
Of
no
course.
issues, no, you know?" She was like, "No, it makes perfect sense because these were the mistakes I did in the past. I don't want to make those mistakes. I want to be successful. And, through my first steps as a franchise, this is your legacy. This is your name. So I want to
Right.
carry it appropriately." So when I heard those words, I said, mm, mm. Where have you been all my life? But at the same time, going back to that idea of a network, I wanted to make sure I was being fair, because
Mhm.
that's something I did not ever find with the networks. So I never wanted to make sure that the people that I'm partnering with were
Mhm.
ever getting anything below the market rate. On the contrary, they should be getting more. Let's figure out what your expenses are. Let's figure out what is the value that my first steps is supposed to be bringing to your program, that name, that brand. And let's put tax on it, because this is how you're going to still feel comfortable and good in regards to the services that I'm bringing to you, in
Mhm.
regards to what it is that I'm doing, and then what it is that I did with that. Her space was a regular apartment. I went in, I furnished a whole space. We did painting, we did work, a nice facelift. The furniture was in. She follows the same curriculum that we use. Everything is done in this. It's a mirror program. It's literally a sister program. It's
Nice.
my step's little sister, literally.
Yeah.
And it allows us to not only have that continuity of care, because remember, we still have that 3K for all program,
Mhm.
but it's someone that believes in my vision as well, um,
Right.
believes in what it is I want to offer families,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of quality of care that families in our community deserve, because they don't get it. We always get the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So the fact that this is someone that sees that, believes in that, and and I tell her, listen, I'm going to be hard on you. I'm going to be tough. Why? Because I need to prepare you. Because at the end of the day, yes, you're carrying the name. This is a franchise, a partnering program, but that license is under your name. So I want to make sure you're prepared. I want to make sure when when an inspector comes, they already know off the back, you know exactly what you're doing.
Right.
I want to make sure everything is the way it should. But in the back of my mind, I always think about those inspectors when they would come to my program,
Mm-hmm.
the networks when they would come to my program. They didn't come in with that sense of how can I help you succeed? They
Right.
came in with that mindset of gotcha. What did you do
Yeah.
wrong? How can I catch you? How can I write this violation? And that hurts our spirit,
Yeah.
because people that get into this business is not always because of the millions of dollars that they're going to find. Let's be honest, especially in family childcare.
No,
It's not
it
that.
doesn't exist.
It's definitely not. But because they have a love for it, and
Yeah.
they don't notice that they're crushing their souls instead of
And they're
trying to.
making them scared, like scared to operate. I remember when I first opened my home daycare, I was so anxious every single day about possibly getting an inspection.
There's
And
inspections.
yeah, if I had to step out for any reason, I was so nervous about like an inspector coming when I wasn't there. It was a mess. It distracts you from delivering the good quality service that you're trying to deliver because you're worried about like is there is the cabinet missing the child lock? Like, yeah, so I get that. So you filled in that gap and gave her the comfort and uh, attention that she needed to make sure that she would not experience those types of issues with licensing.
Yes, in regards to that, for licensing, for the curriculum, what to do with the children, um, uh, getting her the children as well, so marketing as well. I make sure that her program is up to capacity as much as possible, and that it's running smoothly. Whatever she needs, I'm here for her. I
Yeah.
am here for her. If she just needs to talk because this parent is just giving her a hard time, these new kids started and they are not adapting to the program right away. And sometimes you just need that. And you
Yeah.
never realize how much or what value that brings until you don't have it.
Hmm.
And it gets lonely being a childcare provider. It
Absolutely.
gets lonely. Like, none of your friends want to hear all day about your kids.
Right.
They don't. And then another thing as well is that I don't believe as childcare providers, even center owners, have, like, let's say, a go-to person that you can go to ask questions. Because yes, we're a small business, but at the same time, we're regulated by Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We need to make sure we abide by Department of Labor,
Mm-hmm.
state taxes, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You need to make sure, labor laws are into effect. You need to make sure you have workers' comp. You need to make sure you have this. Nobody really sits us down and tells us this.
Right.
We find someone, let's
Yeah,
say,
you
like,
find out when you realize you didn't file your payroll taxes and now you owe thousands of dollars in a penalty. Like what
exactly.
happened to me when I first opened.
Yeah, or no, you can't go by, let's say, an accountant that tells you you can have your employees as a 1099. Or
Right.
yes, you do need to have, timesheets that people sign in and out. You need to have, an agreement, something in paper that states by law how much this person is getting paid the hour. No, you cannot pay them $10 an hour. The minimum wage is 15. Like, that's illegal.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they don't have this. I was able to learn this thanks to me just going out and attending all these godforsaken trainings.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone has that time. Not everyone has that energy of working from 7 a.m. to open up your program, because I would open at 7 a.m. to accommodate my families, not closing till 6 p.m., sometimes 6:30 because of the latecomers, and then from there going to a class.
Right.
It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that through this franchise, I'm able to offer that to other childcare providers, able to give them, that assistance,
Right.
that knowledge of things that I've already been through, of issues I've gone, let's say through, just things that I didn't know I had to protect myself against.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know. We're so vulnerable.
Yeah. So is she your only franchise location right now? Are you looking for more, or do you already have multiple?
She's the only one now. I am speaking to someone else that does want to open up another one, but obviously, I learned from my first one that we need to make sure we're on the same page. We just need
Right.
to make sure we have the same belief system when it comes to the children in the program, when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to what it is we want to offer, because that's really what it is. What it is that we want to offer these families, what's the value that we want to bring to their lives, and how can we maintain it. So I definitely make sure, that there's like an intake process, because it has to work on both ends, on their end as well. They,
Right.
should feel comfortable with the person that's going to be guiding them. They
Mm.
should feel that, I'm adding value to them. So
Right.
it has to make sense both ways. So yeah, definitely.
And how are you protecting yourself? Like as far as, because like you said, it's their license, it's their childcare program. But as far as like you've created such a beautiful brand with your business, and what what is the scenario if there was an issue with licensing and it's the same brand name? Like what are some precautions, if any, if you've thought about that yet,
Oh,
or if you're
definitely.
comfortable speaking on it? If
Yeah,
you're not, that's
yeah.
okay.
No, no, no. Sure, it's no problem. Well, the first thing is that we do have a contract. The contract is drafted.
Okay.
And we definitely have a professional look over it, make sure that both parties are being protected. And at the end of the day, or although they are using the brand of My First Steps, the licensing and everything is still under their name.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main things that's also mentioned in the contract is violations.
Mm-hmm.
After a certain amount of violations, if we see that, it's something that's just ongoing, then unfortunately,
Yeah,
we would have to,
that's a great idea. Yeah.
yeah, we would definitely have to, kind of break the
Separate
contract.
yourselves.
Exactly, exactly, and separate ourselves from that. Another thing as well that we discuss is that every year we look over the contract, see if it's still working, if it's
Mm.
working for both parties or not. We also have monthly meetings, because, as I mentioned to you, we just have to make sure, we're always on the same page, and
Right.
communication is key,
Mm-hmm.
is key. And for instance, the person that I have the franchise with at this point, her name is Miss Valerie, and we're constantly speaking. We're constantly speaking. I want to make sure she feels good. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that she doesn't feel alone, that she doesn't feel lost, that, a parent isn't coming in and maybe, trying to school her.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, listen, respectfully, you can let them know X, Y, and Z, and such, such, and such. These are the rules. These are your regulations. These are your policies. These are things. These are non-negotiables. And
Right.
that's one more thing. When I started, I had no one telling me that. I just thought I just had to take it. That
Mm-hmm.
there was no other, another other way around it. And oh my goodness, it was horrible, horrible. The things that we go through because we don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always tell people that I never used to know I could say no to things. I would say yes to everything all the time, to the point where one time I was driving, like I used to, for whatever reason, I thought it was a good idea to do transportation and like in my own car.
Uh,
And I started when I was 20 years old,
oh,
in my home daycare. And I would drive 30 minutes to go pick up this little girl from school. Why was I doing that? We had like at least 10 other schools in my neighborhood in Queens that I could have did waited for a child from there to to sign up, but this family, for some reason, found me and wanted to know if I could pick up their child from school. And I said, yes,
30 minutes.
30 minutes. And with the anxiety of being out of my center for 30 minutes a day.
Oh.
It was crazy. My home daycare, sorry, for 30
Mhm,
minutes
mhm.
a day. It's too much. I remember one time I said yes to waking up an hour early at 5:30 to open my program, even though we opened at 6:30. A parent
Mhm.
needed care earlier than that, so I said yes. It,
Yeah.
there's so many stories like that.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I've done that in the past oh so many times. You just never know. You're not, no one tells you these things. When you
Right.
go to these 30-hour trainings, to these 15-hour trainings online, no one tells you this. Like, no, this is your business.
Right.
You put your hours, you decide your rates. I,
Hmm.
I remember once having a parent coming in for a walkthrough, and after everything, they fell in love with the program, so on and so forth. But she said, not for nothing, but why are you so cheap? I said, excuse me? What? She goes, yeah, you have a really good program. You know, just in case, I'm going off on a limb here, but when your prices are so inexpensive, people think that there's something wrong.
Hmm.
And I said, oh my goodness. Like, so in my early 20s, I'm like, I'm just trying to get by. Like,
Yeah.
no one is telling me what I should charge. No one is telling me where to look. And then when I do say a price, these parents are like, no, okay, bye. No one told me, then these are not the families for your program.
Right.
These are
That's
not the
key.
people
Yeah.
for you. And that's okay.
Mhm.
Not everyone is going to be for your program. The ones that will realize the value of your program and what it is your program gives
Mhm.
will be willing without an issue to pay.
Right.
And that's it. So, yeah, yeah.
Well, if there is anybody that is in the, because I do have a lot of listeners and viewers and YouTube subscribers that are from New York. Um, if somebody is interested in connecting with you or possibly learning more about the franchise opportunity that you're expanding, how can they reach you? Or is that something you're open to?
Yes, yes, yes. I definitely would be. We would definitely just start off with just a simple conversation. I just
Mhm.
love to see where the person is at, and they can definitely reach me at my business number. Should I just put it out here for them?
You can, and I'll also link it in like the description of the video and the podcast show notes. But if you'd like, you can tell them too for anybody that won't look.
Yeah. So yes, they could definitely find us on Facebook under MFS underscore enrichment programs,
Okay.
or they can just contact us directly at my first steps daycare at yahoo.com, or contact us via phone at 347-968-0081, and then just ask to speak to Tiffany.
Okay. I love it. I hope that you get new connections, and I'm sure that you will, because a lot of my clients have not started their programs yet and are looking for something just like what you offer, someone that can walk them through exactly what to do, how to get their kids. You have like a full service startup childcare business service going on over there. So, and then you don't have to speak on like the specific price, but how is it, in what way do you benefit financially from the franchise? Do you get like a certain cost per child, or is it a monthly rate no matter what? How does that work?
Well, first thing, it depends on the need. For instance, if it's a space that's already been equipped for a childcare, then there is no startup cost. But if it's a space that it's literally just a regular apartment that we have to come in, evaluate the space, get the furniture, help them with the purchasing and everything, then there's obviously then there would be a startup cost for that specific need that that person has. And then after that, every month there's a percentage of each child in the program that's enrolled. So once again, this is why I always have to have that sit down conversation with them. Tell me what's going on. Tell me where you're at with your business. Tell me, where do you see yourself financially? How, and then let's say if we need to work on getting you there, then that's what we'll do. But we have to first start step by step by step. So that this way they understand the process to it. And then we also give them the opportunity to educate them on, how it is that you come up with your rates. Yes, you have a baseline to go off of because of the market rates that are out there, but your expenses and my expenses may not be the same. So we have to sit down and work it out because it needs to be beneficial to the person as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. So definitely reach out to Tiffany if you're interested in that opportunity. If you're look, do they have to be in the Bronx?
No, 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 no. As long as they're within the city of New York,
Okay.
that's not a problem. Just because that's where I'm specialized in regards to the regulations. Because
Yeah.
no matter what, we need to make sure those regulations, we know them like the back of our hand.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So if you're in one of the five boroughs of New York City, reach out to Tiffany if you're interested in that opportunity. And Tiffany, thank you again so much for all this knowledge that you dropped. I love it. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you and excited. And thank you again so much for joining me on this episode.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute, absolute pleasure once again.
Okay, so I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.